Well, you're seeing this video, you probably have somehow become aware of or are interested in private stock amplifiers. And the way this sort of came about is that I play a lot around the house, and I own a lot of vintage amplifiers and some very heavy boutique amplifiers, and they sound great, but they look like amplifiers. I have them out in the living room, and frankly, my living room is pretty decorated, and I've got a couple of beans. What can I tell you? My girlfriend would go nuts. You know, people are going to come over, and she'd say, get that out of the living room. What, are you crazy? Because to her, it looked like an appliance. You know, like I'd have a washing machine in the living room. And I said, well, okay, you know, she has a point. And the other thing is, most of the music I listen to, and I'm an older guy, comes from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. And I never felt like I was quite getting that sound. And I got to thinking, okay, how can I get everybody happy and get that sound I want? And so I came up with the idea of putting a tube Fender amp, which is about the only kind I use, into an old radio console. What makes a radio console kind of unique is that the criterion is that when they're closed or not being used, it's inobvious that they're a radio. There's no dial, there's no knobs. They're a piece of high quality furniture. They were only made for a few years, mostly in the from the mid-30s and stopped like a brick about 1941 when we went into the war. Frankly, they're pretty hard to find, and they're almost impossible to find in good condition. But I've been fortunate enough to get some for myself, and I've realized that there's probably other people that would want or appreciate what I've succeeded in doing. Not only do they look wonderful, and case in point, this Philco, and I can say with some assurance that the only place you'll find this particular model is either in a private collection or a museum, is that it looks like a beautiful piece of pre-war haute Art Deco design. But if I open it, there's a slightly modified Blues Junior in there going through a beautiful 15-inch speaker, and it sounds like a dream. Over here, right behind me, is a Farnsworth. To my knowledge, I only know of two others currently available. And this has an American-built DeVille in it, going through a vintage 25-watt Alnico speaker.
You play out of Blues Junior, you usually have like a 10-inch speaker. Sometimes people modify them for a 12. And it's like, oh, that's cool. You can mic it and play it at a gig. This thing has warmth you would not expect out of that amp that we've all played in jam situations. You know, you show up to the jam, here's my Blues Junior, let's put a mic in front of it and jam. This thing is the warmth. You don't hear it out of that amp. I didn't even know it was capable of that kind of tone until now. A lot of it has to do with running 2 12s to 4 ohms. And with the cabinet too, when you're running vintage wood like this, it's just like old guitar, you know? Playing a new Martin or something compared to an old Martin, it's just been vibrated with music for over so many years. That's what these cabinets are used for, is playing music. So it's already warmed up to the thought of it. So playing a guitar through it just makes more sense. And you can tell the cabinet likes being used for music again.
Both amps sound as great as they look. They're really, really just beautiful creations, and the sound is just dynamite. It's Fender-like, but it's bigger and warmer. I can see, changing my playing style depending on what setting I've got the amp set at, because everything it's given me so far is just fun and makes you want to play. I'd like one for each side of my living room if I could. Can we make that happen?
But my logic is, if you're seriously a guy who's going to appreciate what I've created, you're going to see beyond that. Point is, I have to tell you, I've never played anything that sounds like these. Unfortunately, we're dealing with probably some little speakers in front of your computer, but I'm telling you, if you're into R&B, soul, blues, jazz, vintage rock. You're just going to hear a warmth, a quality, some subtleties, some overtones that I don't care what you spend. I don't care if you get a Dumble. You're not going to hear. I wish you were here. If you're interested in one of these private stock amplifiers, honestly, you're going to have to call me and talk to me because they're not a production piece. Every one is unique. I searched the United States for the type of radio that is appropriate. They're very hard to find, and every one is an art project. We decide mechanically what can we fit in it, what would sound the best in it. We actually sometimes experiment, different heads, different speakers, different soundboards, and every one is different. There is no production. It's like a Stradivarius. Everyone has a number, everyone is different.
I think it would be a shame if you, it would be a shame to plug that 60 Super 400 into a lesser amp.